And I feel like, in a weird way, algorithms, in the birth of AI, I don't know if it's presumptuous to say that, but then again, I feel like anytime a new product comes out, it's already been happening for like 15 years. But like, you know how like
Yeah.
cargo cults exist? Like we might be in like an era where like we have like AI cults of like, yes, the algorithm.
Yes.
We must worship
You
the
must worship
algorithm.
the algorithm. They are our only source of salvation.
Which direction are the servers in? Is it east? Should we face east?
Yeah, right. Should we face east? I mean, yeah.
It's a thing. It's a thing we have to deal with. But how are you? How's it going?
Oh, it's going all right. Today's been this morning has been like kind of weirdly stressful, but
Okay, I not to like drop the empathy bomb, but like I'm glad I'm not the only one because I woke up and I was like, this is weird. Everything's weird. Why is everything weird?
I woke up to like a bunch of weird emails from folks and just like kind of like just like working out a bunch of stuff for people. And being like, boy, it's all happening today, I guess.
Yeah, no. Like I literally woke up to like 3 stressful emails of just like all these booking engagements, like they're just like, hey, can we reschedule? And then like 3 other people were like, hey, can we reschedule? I was like, I can't reschedule all of you.
I know, it's weird. I had 2 reschedules myself, which is just wild. It's as if today was the day. And it's funny because yesterday I confirmed people for things, and now today I'm literally going, well, never mind.
Yeah. And it's I mean, I think and I'm doing my best to accommodate, because I continuously have to remind myself, like, never attribute it to malice because just stuff just happens. But it is weird, like how the lizard brain immediately takes it personally.
Oh yeah. I was like,
or maybe that's just
2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, I was like kind of stomping around my room, just like, mother.
Yeah. I was definitely in the same boat where it's just kind of like, and I don't know if it's just like growing up in Philly, but like it like maybe like that part of my brain just kind of like takes over. It's just like, like, oh, okay, I guess you don't respect my time. I guess you don't respect me. I get it. Okay, no, it's fine.
Lighting the cocktail, just woof.
Yeah, and it's like it's not that at all. It's just, I think
I like the lizard brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's real. It's like a total, like, I think it's definitely where like the fight or flight comes in. Like the medulla oblongata. I think that's what it is.
Is that what that is?
It totally comes from there, of just like, like, but for some reason I woke up not with flight, it was fight.
Yeah.
This song's about to end in 10 seconds, and then we'll be on here.
Here we go.
Ben Folds Kate. It's a great song. It's a great song any time of the year. We also had some Jellyfish in the middle of that set, and Television. I would be remiss not to sneak in some Television, because Tom Verlaine was, man, that was one of those guitar players that I continuously geek out on and steal riffs from and geek out on very, very often. And but let's actually talk about some happier things right now, because here on Desert Islands, I am making a mixtape for Taylor James Donskey. I believe we have Taylor James Donskey with us live. Can you still hear me, Taylor?
I can still hear you, Doc. How are you?
Oh, perfect. I am well, as well as I can.
Of course.
Wait, is that even grammatically correct when you use well? That it doesn't matter. But you know how it goes. So we're happy to have you back. I believe this is this your 3rd time on the show?
I can't remember. I think maybe it could be. It could also be my 2nd time. I wouldn't imagine it's my 4th, however.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's you are a busy
individual, so it would not surprise me. So on top of like your curating efforts, a few series in town and around town, you also are curating an entire series to celebrate your new record at the 331 Club coming up next week, and you're doing the whole month, yeah?
Yeah, every Tuesday this month at the 331 Club. We've got 4 Tuesdays. February was kind enough to give us all 4 of them, which was very cool.
Nice.
And we're gonna get started next Tuesday.
So this is a really good lineup. So for people playing at home alone, that's a whole different thing entirely. Who is with you this week and then
this
beyond?
Yeah, this coming week we've got Willow Waters. Excited to have her
she's great.
on the night with the whole band. So it's gonna be really nice. And then on February 14th, Valentine's Day, Goat Roper. We'll have Goat Roper on the set. I happen to play bass with Goat Roper, so I'm excited to keep things really nice. And
you'll be doing double duty that night, or
duty? Yeah, I think so. I think so. And then February 21st, we've got Ruth on the bill. Also play bass with Ruth. So excited to
sensing a trend. Well.
Yeah. I said, I've got to sometimes get my friends in there every once in a while.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and then on February 28th, we've got Dusty Forever, who's a band that I'm excited to learn more about.
Yeah, I actually have just been kind of recently getting familiar with Dusty Forever. I've been seeing the name on a few bills, and now I'm seeing it on your residency bill. So I'm excited to see, because I think the problem with me is when you work at a venue, sometimes you can't see other people's shows. So I kind of have to rely on this show to kind of keep me like, oh, who's that? Who's this? And just kind of it forces me to do homework, which is something I appreciate. But also sometimes this show is the only way I can actually have a conversation with people because we're busy people. So
indeed, yeah, I kind of get how you mean. Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time today. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Taylor James Donskey right now, and we're going to be hanging out until noon. We're also going to hear a cut off of the new record. We're also going to be talking about what Taylor is up to, not only this month and beyond. So come hang out with us. We're also talking on the internet. You can hang out on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Pick your poison, whatever's most comfortable. Please don't do so while you're driving. The video gets archived. You can watch it later. So let's keep going here. Here's some Neil Francis here on Desert Islands.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I get
Neil Francis.
Every time I switch, every time I press a button, I have just been conditioned to think that something is going to break. So I'm just going to probably ask you that a lot.
Yeah, that's totally fine. What was the name of that Neil Francis tune? Because I've listened to them before, but I've never actually known
Can't
them.
Stop the Rain. I got introduced to Neil Francis because he was opening for someone at the Palace like 15 months ago. Like it was like back when he was kind of like still. Now he's like either an opening act for like huge things or he's like a main act. But like it was just one of those acts where I was just like, yo, who's this?
Yeah, nice.
This is good.
Yeah, I've never seen him. I'd love to catch it. I just like that vibe. Is just such a fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Such a
and he has a way of like really connecting to this like 70s aesthetic that I think a lot of people try to put on because it's like hip, where like I think like that's just that dude.
That's just him,
like I think that's just him. That's like what he likes. And I always appreciate just because I get it. We were joking about the algorithm. I get that in today's day and age, like you kind of have to follow the algorithmic trends and things are coming back. But it seems to be like that's just the sound he's trying to. That's the vibe he's trying to curate, and it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Good live show.
That's great.
But no, you know what it was? I caught his show at the Entry. I was
Oh,
working his show at the Entry like a long time ago, and now it's it's just one of the brain. Yeah. But no, good stuff. It's really good band. So one of the things I noticed on this list that I really appreciated, there's a lot of tracks that hint that the band was cutting this live in the studio together. Like there's so many instances, like there's a Tom Petty track, you know, the who else? The Texas Gentleman.
The Texas Gentleman. Yeah.
But like there's also like you can just hear in the background where it's just like, all right, we're going to the 4 chord before we do the chorus. And it's like
funny.
You can just tell it's just people in a room.
It's funny in that moment too. They don't actually go to the G. They like go to G and they don't go to G. I'm like, what the?
No, it's just like it's kind of like that's kind of what a conductor does for the orchestra. It's not at that moment. It's just like, hey, prepare, we're going here, you know. And that's why if you watch a conductor, people were like, what the hell are they doing? You know, it's like
I took conducting when I was in college, right?
What is that like? Because I'm self-taught. I don't know. I'm not classically trained. I feel like I would just be like keeping time.
It's a lot of like discussion of scores and discussions of like intention with scores, and
I
like
can imagine that.
Like it really melts together with like music history, almost like painfully so. So like, I mean, did you watch the movie Tar?
No, I've been hearing a lot about it.
As a movie, I mean, it's a very impressive movie. There's some definite like iffy bits about it, just like from a meta discussion scenario. But conducting, you kind of get at the beginning of the movie, you kind of get like a little like sort of like a crash course into conducting from this individual character, and it's not like all encompassing, but it's a lot of like interpretation of specific moments and pieces and stuff like that, where one hand gives time, but the other one is like literally like interpreting a moment. And throughout rehearsal, like you just sort of like take a tune or, you know, take a piece and you find your own way through it, sort of. And you know, it, in my opinion, I found it really like boring and kind of like whatever, like just play the damn song, like let's not worry about it too much. But they're like very much like, we must worry about every single instance, you know.
Right. I remember analysis in college because, you know, like any millennial, it was beat into my brain that, hey, you can't just follow your passion. You need to have a backup plan. So like an idiot, I went to music college.
Interesting.
As a self-taught musician. And I remember getting into Schenkerian analysis.
Oh, 3, 2,
and I remember just thinking, like, just watching my professors like pontificate of just like, you do not understand. I learned this from blah, 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 who has several degrees. And this is probably the only man who could tell Bach to his face that he made a mistake with that E sharp. And I'm sitting here going like, okay, this just seems like you're needlessly complicating something that doesn't need to be needlessly complicated for the sake of gatekeeping the poor out of something that only has 12 notes. And I would get yelled at for that. And then Adam Neely posts a video about the white supremacist history of music theory. And I just went, vindication.
Yes.
I knew this was full of shit.
I mean, it's like, it's just a bunch of, at the beginning it was a bunch of white Italian dudes. And they just, you know, they got all the words. Crescendo, accelerando.
Exactly.
It is.
I think it. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yes.
I think it is valuable. I don't think people should like throw it out the window. That being said, I don't think you should base your entire either appreciation of the craft or access to learning it off of this system, because at the end of the day, I think you can learn just as much like going to School of Rock than you could.
Yeah, and it also depends on like just kind of like who you are as a person. Like if you are exploring, if you are looking for like the most regimented thing, then congratulations, it's existed for hundreds of years.
Yes.
You will, and the beautiful thing is you will finish this course of action.
Yeah.
However, you won't go any further.
No, that's kind of like I basically got the degree in it so I could like do, you know, like it was way easier to get a teaching job with like oh well, you know, I do have this degree. But that being said, like I still think I could have gotten a gig teaching at a guitar store. Not that I, you know, don't enjoy teaching for St. Paul Public Schools. I do. It's just kind of one of those things where like I even tell my students where it's like, hey, if this is confusing, it's because it is.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not it's if it seems like a lot of information, it really is. You are drinking from the fire hose here.
Yeah.
And
I always tell my students, I'm always like, usually with like learning like physical things like scales and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah,
they really, you know, some of them get very frustrated. And I was like, you've never done this before. It's very much like the Matrix, where I'm like, you've never used them.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, why am I so weak? You've never, it's like literally, you've just never done this before. And like, you just have, your body is just like reacting to the fact that you just have never done it. And
yeah, I have to remind people, because most of the instruments I teach are strings. So like I don't teach any horns, so that this line actually kind of works kind of catch all, but it's just like, look, at the end of the day, you are teaching a block of wood how to sing.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. It's actually difficult to learn how to sing yourself. So it's okay to be frustrated. This is like a yoga class. Give yourself credit for showing up, you know?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, give yourself some credit for just being there. And like I always say, my thing is, sometimes it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It just matters that it happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and because especially because good and bad is like the eye of the beholder. Like I'm one of those weirdos that goes to noise shows and actually enjoys them.
Yeah.
So it's just like I think it's more about like there is something to be said for like I really like the way Victor Wooten approaches things, of just like where like he has that example of like he'll put on like a jam track and then he'll literally just go chromatic, and it's just like, look, if you have intention and like a sincere thing, there is no wrong note. You know, and sometimes like repetition legitimizes. Of just like, if you hit a wrong note, just like, hey, play it again, and then you are literally one half step from the right one.
And you'll always find a good place for something like that to happen again, which is kind of funny. Like that wrong note is always like, it's many folks, you know, they self-deprecate at that moment immediately. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, I am trash. And
I say all this, I talk a big game, but like in behind the scenes, like my brain is just like, you're telling all your students this, and it's very good. That doesn't apply to you though.
Exactly. You are trash still.
You definitely are.
It's like, following my own advice is a challenge. I have a few students who are piano students, and I'm not like I don't call myself conversational on the piano. It's mostly like I can look at it and go, okay, cool, we can do that, and I like know all the concepts behind it. But every once in a while, I find myself like in the music room, just like working on piano and working with my students and being like, holy crap, you do not know what you're doing. It's like the one instrument that like really gets me sometimes, where I'm just like, no,
piano is the one instrument other than drums, but like I'm not a good enough drummer to teach drums. Like if you want me to sub a gig where you just want a pocket, sure. Like I've done a few wedding gigs that way, but like piano, I feel like that's where my self-taughtness rears its ugly head, because there are some things with students where it's just like, well, how are you doing that? And I can't really explain, you know, because I think like a lot of it is just like, you know how people button mash in video games?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of what I'm doing in piano, where I'm just like, well, I know these notes work, so like, and I know my technique is like clearly a string player just hunting and pecking and finding the notes of just like, well, I know these sound good, so just throw it all, you know, like, and there are moments where I've had students kind of like outgrow me because I'm just like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of, oh, stand by. Ooh, so we had some K Tronada in that set, but that was Disclosure. Neil Francis at the top of that set. And if you're just tuning in, making today's mixtape with Taylor James Donskey, who has a residency every Tuesday at the 331 in Minneapolis. So if you're in the area, you're looking for some live music, go check that out. It's going to be there the whole month. So speaking of live music in the Twin Cities, let's talk about stuff that's happening this week and beyond. Tomorrow night, Tacklebox, Services, and Asia Minor are all going to be at the Turf Club. Also on Tuesday, Derecho at Ice House. So Al Church is going to be on drums, and Alan Sparhawk from Low is going to be on guitar in this group. So if that sounds cool to you, it's at Ice House tomorrow. Check it out. Friday, Mad Mojo Jet, Pill Cutter, The Mood Swings, and Spit Takes at the Turf Club. This is going to be a rockin' time. It's going to be a rockin' time at the Turf Club on Friday. If you're in the mood for something a little bit more chill, but still pretty excellent, we got Eli Gardner and Faith Boblet at the Astor Cafe that night as well. Saturday, Murph, Civil Decline, and this is actually my favorite new band name, Basketball Divorce Court. They'll be at the Turf Club on Saturday. Also Saturday, Bad Bad Hats. They are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of their first EP. So they're going to be doing 2 shows. It's going to be like a matinee, 4 p.m., and then another one starting at 8:30 p.m. That's at the 7th Street entry. Let's see here. We got the Rank Strangers going back to Barely Brothers. This is their annual gig at the Barely Brothers, but they're bringing Black Widows and the Sex Rays. This starts at 1 p.m. So check that out. If you want to do multiple shows that day, you can. The Winter Carnival is in full swing. And at KJ's Hideaway, they're going to be having like a little after party on Saturday where you can watch the Federales. Sunday night, the Gated Community and Skunk Hollow at Eagles Club. And then looking ahead, yes, we got Taylor's residency, but on Monday night, Ice Climber, 1-year anniversary show at Memory Lanes. I'm so glad Memory Lanes is doing music again. I kind of missed the Memory Lanes music nights. And then, of course, Big Turn Music Fest, which is going to be later this month. Taylor, are you playing Big Turn? I feel like
I am. Yeah, I'll be 5:30 on that Friday at the American Legion.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. All right. So yeah, Friday at the American Legion, and I feel like a lot of the
that I were talking about in that calendar list are also going to be at Big Turn. So if you're in the mood, go there. Red Wing is an insanely charming town, and it's just really fun to walk around it in the winter. So we are here to celebrate the release of your new record, and I know I've played a few tracks already, and I might want to return to a track that I've already played. I got "What Do You Think of Love" queued up here. But let's just talk about like the actual recording process of this record, because I love the textures and tones on this record. Who did you work with on this record?
Yeah, we worked with Andrew Wozniak on lead guitar.
Oh, nice.
Dave Mailing on keys.
Oh, Dave's great. Yeah.
Alex Young on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing some bass and some acoustic guitar, doing the lead vocals, of course. And Maren Wiltz and Julia Hobart also lent their vocal stylings, as well as Andres Crevetti jumped in there on a few tunes, giving some vocal harmony leads on there. And so that's kind of the group we had there. We all worked together with worked together or in pieces with Jason McGlone.
Oh yeah, Jay's great. Yeah,
really great guy, and we were excited to work with him again. He's gets the most out of all that gear. So
yeah, no, he really does, and he's worked with a lot of friends of mine for years. And yeah, every record I feel like he cranks out of that studio just gets better and better and better.
I think it's only up from here too, which is even better.
There we go. All right, well, let's actually get our ears on this here. This is new. Taylor James Donskey here on KFAI.
Okay, I should be back. Should.
Sweet.
Yeah, Jay's awesome. I met him at McNally. Anytime I see him cranking out records, I'm just like, yeah, Jay, yeah. It's like he does good work too.
He does great work, and he's got he's actually part of the Hamlin faculty now.
Whoa, good on him.
Yeah. So he's got some connections there, which is really great. He's been able to pick up some wonderful new gear, and
good.
He's able to he has access to a much larger locker of microphones and stuff like that. So he's been very kind enough to show me those microphones.
Yeah,
look what these can do, and I'm like, wow,
yeah,
so great. I will never be able to afford them.
No, yeah, that's
yeah, it's just like some just really great stuff, and some great vintage gear too. So yeah, he really does a great job getting the tones out of the equipment. And this record too was sort of a great record to do with him, because of that. He was very good at hearing what we have and like kind of going, oh, okay, well, these are the ideas that we're going for. And you can kind of hear it. It's like, oh, cool. So you want that, kind of late 70s, early 80s rock compressed guitar thing. Let's just run it through this machine that is the machine that actually did that back then. Old Levinson.
That's so cool.
Old LA2As. He's got like these old compressors that are just like, I'm not sure what are they? Great River preamps. Those are like they're like pretty much.
Idea.
I think they're just a Neve console strip.
Oh, sure. Neve consoles, I know. Yeah,
I think they're modeled after the old Neve console, just a single strip. I think that's what they're modeled after. I could be wrong there, but yeah. So when you put something in there, you're like, oh, this is exactly what I want it to sound like, and so he does a great job, and he's got that lovely little studio up there in the Northeast. So.
Is he still in the same spot, or did he get a new room?
No, he's still in the Northeast at the Hideaway.
So he's just like upgrading it.
Yeah, I think like years from now, he's just gonna have it's gonna be like a little spaceship. You're gonna walk in and go, like stuff up here and here. And you can't even sit there. It's just him in like a rotating chair.
Yeah,
like everything's
kind of like get like the Bond villain aesthetic of just
very Bond villain aesthetic. He should bring his cat to the studio more often and do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's like the perfect
and be all about it. Yeah.
Tell me about your record, Mr.
Yes. It would be fantastic. Yeah. Cat pression. No, it doesn't work. It was close, but it doesn't work.
Patent pending. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like the I wish I knew more about gear, but I think I'm also at like the point in my life where I feel like I don't want to should all over myself, because like I feel like if I actually wanted to, I would have gotten around to it by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like one of those things where it's just like also income. I never made enough money to even do it. I mean, clearly, like my I make records out of paper mache, like the last record I made, I literally recorded in my van, I don't know anything about it. Like I know
that
I know names of like, it's like, but I wouldn't know like if it's kind of like a garden tool for me. Like if you put the gear in front of me, I know how to use it.
You know how to use it. Exactly. Yeah.
But I don't know, like it's like that Portlandia sketch where like inevitably someone comes up to you after the show and be like, is that a this? Is that a this?
Yeah.
Oh, you got this? Is that, and I'm just like,
it's a thing. It does that.
Sure. Well, the thing with this is I plug it in a wall and it turns on, and then
it takes,
and then I start the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that mindset too, because it frees you up to actually be a creative individual sometimes.
Yeah, but I've also just kind of like trying to get to that point in my life where I'm just gonna like shed that and be like, yeah, I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't, you know.
And you know what you're working with, and that's what you just kind of create with that. And I think that's a brilliant move. I myself am trying to stay away from purchasing more and more gear. I just
that's what that, because I hear it's like tattoos. I don't have any tattoos. I don't have any gear. But like if I got one, I feel like the next step is to like, well, now I need another one, and I'm gonna get another one, and I'm gonna get another one.
And then this one
I'm already at that point being like a DIY artist where it's just like, I feel like being a musician, I don't play actual music that often. What I do is like arrange press interviews and book gigs and do this and do that. Like Haley and I, we never practice. We like literally show up to the gig and just go.
Nice.
Like, and it's just like, it's at this point, like the being a musician, there's not much music going on. It's like sending emails and trying to arrange logistical things of just like, oh, we're in this town, we're in this town, we're in this town. And it's like, it's hard to actually just like play music for fun.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I got into gear, I wouldn't be able to play music for fun. And I feel like I'm kind of just there already anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I sometimes I get to jam with my students once they get to a certain where it's just like, how do I guitar solo? They're like, yes. Come with me, my friend.
Come with me into this wonderful soup.
Yeah, it's just like, it's, you know, but I think it's just hard because, and also, you know, LPF is pretty much based in LA at this point.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So it's just like when we get together, it's more of like, hey, we got a gig. All right, we'll all get in one room, then we practice, and then we do the gigs, and then it's just kind of back to the grind of like, oh, I have nothing in April. I need to book April. Oh, I have nothing in June. It's like that never ending.
You're just always putting something together.
Right.
Yes.
And
I think we began our conversation about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And it's I think at this point it's a never ending lesson in not taking things personally. And it's but I think that's true for like all things in life.
Sure.
Just because it's just when you zoom out in the grand scheme of things, we are very, very, very small.
Yes.
It's really not that big of a deal. If I died tomorrow, someone would take this radio spot and no one would even remember this show, and that's fine. That's just how it is.
They totally would.
Be nice. It's the truth.
70 years from now, they might not remember, but they'd remember for like 30.
No, in this town, I'd be lucky to get 2 weeks.
Oh,
I'd be lucky to get that.
I'd give you more credit than that. I think your locus of influence is a lot larger than you might imagine. I mean, you are being broadcast on the radio.
Yeah, but I mean, it's I do recognize that it's an honor and a privilege to do, but like I am also, you know, we're talking about records, you know, like the program after me is Democracy Now. Yeah, Amy Goodman's doing the big work. I'm just playing with my hands. I'm like, there's nothing consequential going on here, you know, like I'm not trying to influence anything really.
I think there is well, I appreciate that, but I think you'd be surprised. Maybe you might be far more influential in that way because you have that attitude. Do you know what I mean? That attitude, in like opposition to like other, maybe if you want to consider it more serious endeavors, which I don't really think it's necessarily more serious, but maybe just serious in a different light. I think people. Yeah,
I try to live by the maxim of take the work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah, sure.
And I think I think I've definitely rubbed some people the wrong way in this community, mainly just the way I talk, which is kind of hard to explain, where it's just like, I'm not yelling. I grew up in Philly. This is how we talk.
Yeah, it's just
And for like years, people were just like, you're using that as an excuse, until like my friends actually like did East Coast tours, and you're like, oh no, you're right. People just talk that. If anything, you're like the mild version.
There's sort of an
that.
yeah. I grew up in a family that they're not from Philly for that matter, but their modus of speak is very aggressive, and it's yelling, but it's not like there's no malice.
Yeah, it's not yelling, because it's like if you didn't project, you would not be heard.
Yes.
And growing up in a family that valued athletics over arts, you kind of had to get louder to be like, no, I have that mindset for this.
Yeah.
This is just not something like, like, I don't care what is happening in the NFL, but I will watch it with you because I know you like that, and that's how we spend time, but like, so it's like I use a lot of sports analogies to kind of like explain the world to them. But yeah, it is like, you kind of just have to get used to it. Another thing that rubs people the wrong way is direct communication. And I don't think people realize, like, I don't call out, I call in. If I'm laying into you, it's because I care about you, and I think you can be better. And I think you are not living up to your potential. And I think like, I got this from my brother, where it's just like, like, he's just like, why I'm giving you a hard time? It's because I think you don't give a shit. And when you don't give a shit, it makes all of us look like we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So give a shit, because this is important to people. People get babysitters. People take time out of their lives. So it's just like, I have pulled people aside and go like, hey, like, but not in a way where it's just like, like, I feel like when I taught at School of Rock, I was teaching with my friend Danielle, who plays drums and Scrunchies. Bruce Violet plays bass, and like, she's great. But I feel like I was the mom and she was the dad. Like, she was just like, get your act together. Where like, I was more the presence of just like, hey, this is how you make people feel when you do this.
I like
that. And it's like more of like it's just like, when you do this, it feels like a direct fuck you to me.
Yeah.
So like, is it a fuck you to me? Because if it is, let's talk about that. But if it's not, change your behavior. And like, I never get a follow-up conversation after that. It's always just like, geez, I'm gonna stay away from Doc. So it's like, I get in a lot of, I feel like I get in a lot of trouble for that, where it's just like, okay, apparently Doc's hard to work with. I'm just like, no. I grew up where this is just,
well,
I'm doing you a favor.
Also, I think, I was gonna say, there's a small necessity for that, and when I say small, I mean it's a small necessity for
because like,
that sort of attitude towards like, what are you presenting, and who are you there to, what are you there to do, right? Are you there to fuck around and have fun? Then, well, you better make sure people know that, because if they don't know that that's what's about to happen, there's going to be that disjunct can be very damaging.
To both, and it's
people you're working with and the club you're
serving with. Somebody. If you're not serving the audience, you're serving the venue that you're playing with, you're serving the song. But like, it's more of like me saying like, hey, I'm telling you this because when you leave the city limits, the state limits, you are going to get eaten alive. And there's no forgiveness. Like, you're like, it's like, I just don't want you to get your ass kicked.
Get people prepped and ready for what's out there.
Stand by. So that was New Willows, who are releasing a new record this week. We also had new Goat Roper. I'm glad we actually mentioned Goat Roper. Because, did you play bass on that record, Taylor?
I did not play bass on that record.
Okay. But you have been playing with Goat Roper recently, and they are on your residency this month. And is second week next? Are they doing next week?
It'll be the 14th of February, Valentine's Day.
Hey, there it is. There it is. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. This is the show where I make mixtapes based on the 10 records my guest would bring to a desert island. Today's mixtape is for Taylor James Donskey, who is releasing a record soon, and you heard it at the top of that set. So if folks liked what they heard, where can they hear it again? Do you have a preferred place where they can get their hands
Well,
on it?
I'm on Bandcamp at Taylor James Donskey. You can also find me on Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer for those European listeners out there. We've also got, I don't believe it's available anywhere else, but most of those larger streamers. Of course, Bandcamp is great because you can just buy the song and just own it, which is super fun. But you can also hear it live. That's another thing too.
Yeah.
I'll be playing quite a bit in the next couple months here, so you can follow yours truly on the old interweb and keep up to date.
When is the full record available now, or just a few singles?
So just a few singles are available digitally. However, if you come see me live, you can just buy the record just right off me right now if you'd like. The record will be available digitally on the 24th, but I'm calling any show that I play, just if you want one, come on and get it. I'm not a fan of exclusivity. And so if you really want to hear it, just come on over and pick it up. Because if we're being honest, the best way to support artists is to buy the merchandise that they've created.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I believe if you buy a CD for $15-20, that's like streaming one of their songs like 20,000 times.
Yeah. No.
It's absolutely
true.
I would take the physical CD sale over 20,000.
Even a digital download off a Bandcamp for $5. And I know I'm starting to sound like Pledge Drive. It's like for only $5 a month, you can sponsor a local artist. But it actually, you brought up the exact point I was going to make. Like the metrics are, I think it's like what, 1,000 streams for like $1.17 or something
like that. Yeah. Yep.
You can spend $5 and that will go much longer for the artists than you think. And nobody's getting rich here. See our friend Carsey Blanton, who was actually on this show before this show was called This Show. She wrote a really great piece for The Nation about when my song Rich People went viral. I didn't actually become rich. So I encourage you to check that out. It's really well written. And it kind of strikes a chord with all of us, especially all of us creators. So speaking of creators, I am speaking with one. Taylor James Donskey is on the show. Taylor James Donskey has a new record, and Taylor James Donskey is playing the 331 Club all month. So if you like what you hear, please hear it again live. Up next, we have... I think we might... No. We still have 4 of your Desert Island Picks lists, and I want to try to get in as many as I can because I'm a talker. And if we don't have time for that, I'll post the mixtape underneath this video, and you can get all the tunes that we played or possibly didn't play. But first, we have this.
Programming on this station is supported in part by the Minnesota Department of Health.
Hi, my name is John Gebertatios. I think it's important for me to be vaccinated. And
John, I haven't heard from John in years.
The voiceover?
Yeah.
How do you know John?
Oh, he was in, what was that band he was in? It was a long time ago. Oh, shoot, I can't remember the name of the group. But one of the bands that I had played with him many times.
Sure.
I got to know him just kind of, more like scene buds. But then I think he like went off to New York for a little while.
Right.
I can't remember what really happened, but we just lost touch in that way. But yeah, it's cool to hear.
It's one of those things. I think I was talking with Tony Lindgren about this with Rainadale Sid.
Oh, yeah.
Of just like last time we were both on the same bill at Midwest Music Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were both kind of saying like I feel like I never see you anymore. And it's just like, well, I mean, like it's because we're both doing something right.
Yeah.
Like if we're that busy that we only see each other at these things, like Tony, you're probably out there killing it. And
yeah,
she is.
Yeah. Very much so. Speaking of Midwest Music Fest, aren't you playing that?
I am
on May 12th.
Nate, if you're listening, sorry for spoiling the lineup, but yes, I am on that lineup, and I know you are as well. And I'm excited because that's like I like playing Winona. I play there a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just kind of this like weird little family reunion.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Which is it's kind of like what Big Turn is too, where it's like a lot of people. And I think that's like kind of what festivals should be in a way. Like they should be these like ritual things where I feel like lately it's just been this money grab, which is foolish because you know, like I feel like it's like Venture Brothers, where it's just like, ha, you've come to steal our great ideas. You've been foiled. We have none. It's just like there is no money. It's just like, I see you're trying to get rich. like joke's on you. You won't.
There's nothing here.
Yeah, like if you want to start a music festival, you basically have to be prepared to lose money for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you'll probably break even. And then you'll probably be in a spot where it's just like, you're making enough money to basically pay the people running it, pay the artists a decent wage, but like the festival itself, like doesn't really have a war chest. It's like why a lot of these things are grant funded, but like that's one of the cool things about Minnesota. It's kind of like a Scandinavian country. Like we actually do fund arts.
Yeah.
A lot of these festivals continuously get grants, you know, like the Cedar Cultural Center relies on a lot of grants. And like, by the way, if you're grantees, like, please keep funding the Cedar Cultural Center.
Yes, please.
Please
do.
Like, that's just one of those spots that I feel like why would Tenarwin come to Minnesota if we didn't have the Cedar?
Yeah, yeah. It is probably one of the most unique venues I've ever been a part of or played at or just been on the stage there, just to see all the different things. And when I was first here in the cities, I didn't quite understand it. It seemed like I thought it was honestly I thought it was a university funded thing. I thought like the university ran it, because it felt like to me growing up in a smaller town is like the university would bring acts like that in, and it was very much like this is what they had. But I thought, oh, cool, the university has this kind of like hipper venue, but it turns out it's its own thing.
I thought that too, because I started volunteering there when I went to college, and no, they're just like a scrappy organization doing it for love of the game.
Yeah,
you know, and it's
should be rewarded.
It should. And by the way, I that original comment starting this thread of conversation, that is not a dig on Minnesota. It is just a matter of fact. I don't know if you've ever tried to plan a tour. It is hard to do in this country, let alone make sure everyone's passports are in order and then find a route to Minnesota, because I think Minnesotans forget that the Twin Cities are north of Toronto.
Yes.
We are further north.
We
are really up there.
Yeah,
it takes a long time to get here.
Yeah, it is a very interesting. It's very interesting the way in which we're unable to garner some of the acts that we probably should be able to garner, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's that kind of like the Great Lakes of thing where it's like you have to like come up underneath or come over the top. And driving through the UP in Michigan is always a treat, but it's never one that you want to do because there's nothing to do out there. No offense to anybody in the UP, of course. I thought
no, it's beautiful up there, and it's like, and I love the North Shore, but like this is why acts usually start or end their tours here, because we have a really good community of crew and tech people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a rent-a-car system. Like they can drop their gear off at the end of the tour and fly home. Otherwise, you know, like, and I think people take this for granted. So when people are like, how come you skip Minnesota? It's like, you have to understand a lot of these hot new acts might be new to you, but they're probably 10 years in the game.
Yeah.
And the money is so hard that you have to make a special exception to come here.
Yeah.
And the reason that so many acts do is a privilege.
Yeah.
So if you're complaining about concert tickets and all that, like it's like, keep in mind, that's why sometimes acts skip Minnesota. It's not because they're just like, man, Minnesota sucks. It's just like, I know we had a good time there, but if we go up there, we're going to have to pretty much go to Bozeman, and we don't have many people in Bozeman or Boise.
Yeah.
So like, how are we going to get to, like, it is strictly logistics. And like, y'all are complaining about gas prices. Well, you know, think how we feel when we're paying gas prices.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's
not a dig. It's just like, look, it's hard to get up here.
It's logistics. It's all logistics. Yeah.
It's all it is. So like, it's really cool that we have a community that like so many people, like, do you realize how many acts skip Milwaukee to come here? They don't have to do that.
They don't have to, no.
You know, so it's like, and Beyonce's coming back. So
that's great. When is she
so
here
calm
again?
down, people. You're getting Beyonce this summer.
Yeah. When is she here again?
I think she just announced for June or July.
Sure.
At the Jawa Sandcrawler, the big US Bank Stadium.
Jawa Sandcrawler.
It looks exactly like it. Does it not?
Cool. I've never. That's why it seems so familiar for so long.
Yeah, it's like
I was like, it's an ugly building, but like it seems not uncanny.
Yeah,
like I'm not like put off by it because of its like weirdness. I do feel comfortable with it somehow, and it's there's like, no Jawas picking up droids and dragging them in there.
When you like drive down like 280 and it's like looming in the distance, it kind of like feels like that scene. And it's just like
one of my favorite views, actually.
It's always looked like that.
One of my favorite views.
Big old bird killer.
Big old bird. Oh, poor birds.
I feel weird though, because like I wouldn't want to see a concert there. Like
So no Stevie Nicks and Billy Joel for you then?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking when I used to run sound at like bars and like you have this entire wall of glass next to you and you're like, you're just making compromises. It's like, okay, I guess I'm not making the drums because like there's only so much I can do. So like I'm looking at a giant wedge of glass and I'm just like, that can't possibly be conducive to music. How is that going to sound good in there?
Well, I remember they had Metallica in there, and then everyone was like, the sound was terrible. And then they like brought in like acousticians, or however you pronounce the word, acoustician. How do you say that word?
So did they like
They like did like an acoustic package on it that like made it better. I'm not sure. I would imagine they did their darndest to cut down on reflections, but it's, I mean, I
just don't know how. I feel like even with that, there's still got to be some compromises there where it's just like, well, that's just not going to happen. So maybe just point the PA speakers in this direction because like, I wouldn't even know where to begin to do something like that because it was clearly designed for football. I mean, as
it's
one
meant to
does.
amplify sound. It's meant to sound loud.
Yeah, it's just meant to like make the crowd louder, make the
the experience,
make the announcer louder, like everything. But I don't know. I felt the same way about the Roy Wilkins.
Oh, that's also a very
like
cavernous space.
It's a weird place. And I got to play it once. And we had to slow down because this was like my garage rock punk band back when I was doing that. And we like made the decision to slow all of our tunes like 10 BPM to just be like, all right, there's a natural reverb.
Oh, sure. You have to like,
that's the only way to cut the mud. Cause it's like, you're playing rock music. Like you can't,
it gets lost and all mixed up.
Yeah, turning down isn't going to help you.
Yeah.
Turning up isn't going to help you because it's just going to be yeah, like the slap back is like immediate.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
It was like when Jillian Ray, she was talking about when she opened for Steve Miller Band at the Armory.
Oh, sure.
Of like, it's just like, this is why musicians have in-ear monitors, because like if that room's not like full of people, the slapback is so disorienting. You can get lost in a piece of music you wrote.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like there's a weird flexibility you kind of have to have.
Yep.
When you're dealing with the room.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't think about it because, you know, not every band is lucky enough to play a stage that big.
Yeah.
You know, so like you wouldn't be thinking like, oh, I gotta tailor this song because I'm in a gigantic oil barrel made of metal that is just going to reflect everything back at me, and I don't know what to do about that.
Jeez.
But so we got about 30-ish seconds left on this Earth, Wind, and Fire tune. No, sorry, about 15 seconds. And then we will be back on the air. And I don't know. Here, let me do the math. This might be the last on-air talk break. So let's reiterate the who's, the what's, the where's, and why's.
Sure.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's a tune called Fantasy. We also had Robson George. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Jorge or Robson George?
I've always heard it pronounced Robson George.
Okay.
But I might be wrong there. I just really love that tune. It's got one of
the
it's lines
like and Remy Wolf at the top of that set. And thank you for you've been on the show a few times and doing the Sisyphean endeavor of I make my list, and then you just keep making a new list each and every time, and it's such a hard question to answer. So thank you for continuously delivering that. So if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. I made a mixtape for Taylor James Donskey based on the 10 records he would bring to a desert island. And we also had a few picks from previous shows, but really only one or two. And we only have about 2 picks left on the list. And then we got to get to democracy now. So let's just remind folks that you have a new record coming out.
Yes.
And you are playing every Tuesday this month at the 331. But looking ahead, are there gigs in the future they can find you at, and where is the best place for people to keep in touch with you moving forward?
Yes, so we've got gigs all the way out through February and into May. We're just going to be peppering them in there every once in a while. I know we've got an ice house brunch. We'll be doing a solo brunch on March 11th. A couple things here and there. But you can keep in touch on Instagram mostly. Taylor James Donskey on Instagram, and on Facebook Taylor James Donskey. All those things will be posted with frequency as the algorithm dictates. Frequency, and not
all
hail the algorithm.
The algorithm.
So so you can follow me there. You can also get in touch via the website taylorjamesdonsky.com. And I think that's about it. You could also just, yell when you see me in person. That also works as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming back on the
me.
show. The new record sounds great.
Thanks.
I want to get to, because the next 2 songs are the last 2 on your top 10 list, so I want to make sure we get them in here. So let's start things off with some Harry Nilsson here on Desert Islands. Is Deezer mostly European?
I think Deezer is mostly European, but it's like sort of like an off-brand Spotify for them. Still, it's like Europeans' response to Spotify, but I think Spotify is still.
Because I've noticed that the weird stuff I make is more listened to not in Minnesota, and I've been noticing like hits on Deezer, and I was just like, did I put my music on Deezer? What is Deezer? I didn't know I was on Deezer. And it's just
Yeah.
like, it's like, it's this, and it doesn't seem like it's caught on here where anyone even knows what it is.
Yeah, I think it's
I don't even know what it is.
I think it's just sort of like the Betamax player of
There you
like
go. There you
streaming
go.
services. It's like the one that works, but it's also like a little weird. Yeah, I don't know. Not really.
Yeah, I haven't really explored it. I tried. I flirted with the idea of switching to Tidal, but Tidal's cool because it has stuff that other services don't have.
Yes.
But because these services are essentially like Comcast and Verizon, like sometimes they like won't carry specific artists like just to spite, you know, and that works both ways. Like, you know, Joni Mitchell pulled her stuff off of Spotify. Neil Young pulled his stuff off of Spotify. They're not the only artists to pull their stuff off of Spotify. So it just kind of became this weird thing where I was just like, well, I can't justify the expenditure of like another streaming service.
Yeah.
You know, because most of the reason I have the premium is helps with the show, but also teaching. Like there's just like sometimes you'll just like, I just want to learn this song. And you're like, okay, well, let's look it up and let's listen to it and see what we got here. And, you know, it just kind of comes in handy. But I've never even tried Deezer.
Interesting.
Don't even know what the user interface looks like.
Yeah, I've seen like ads for it, but I think that they're more focused on I think they're more focused on the European market than they are the American.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Shout out to Len. Len, thanks for commenting on this video. Appreciate you listening. Sorry about that, ADD brain. Yeah, I while I get the need to like protest Spotify and all that, like I'm not a fan of it.
Neither am I. But you know what they do have? So I have an album of white noise that I put together, and the thing that Spotify does the best, and because I did a trial of Tidal because I wanted to do it on Tidal, but I loop this white noise while I sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm just looping my own music every night to sleep.
I don't understand why people like try to shame artists for doing that. Because here's the thing. Let's actually do the math on an artist playing their own music. Okay, so if you played your own song every day on loop, that's really only a couple thousand listens.
Yeah, it's not
in the
a
grand scheme of things where people are getting like hundreds of millions of streams. So even if you're gonna like try to shame an artist for tipping their own scales, like that's just a drop in the bucket.
It's really small.
You're really not like
means nothing.
You're not like really getting ahead of everyone else.
It's what it is. It's the vanity metric. It's what you're trying to do is just make your profile look like people are using it.
Yeah.
And like because it's the dreaded under 1,000 plays. Like that look just doesn't look good, you know. And as long as it just doesn't look like that.
I'm totally guilty of that too, because like I always like try to like reassure my artist friends of just like, hey, don't worry about that shit. It's not even that important. But then I look at my own profile and I'm like, do they not like it? Why is it under 1,000? Oh man, this record sucks. I knew I should.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why did I do it?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that Spotify offers it's an aggregator of metadata. So it's like who's playing your stuff, where are they playing it, and then it's just basically a business card. It's just a business card that people look at and they go, oh, okay, cool. So you have this many listeners, and so that's really all you're trying to do is just make the business card look a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, the only reason I share my Spotify account is because it's the streaming service where I get the most streams. You know, like every other service, like it's not that I don't get listens. It's just like it's like my YouTube channel. It's like low hundreds.
Sure.
Where like more people actually just listen to that. So I'm just like, well, just go there.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't choose Spotify to be that thing. I think it just kind of naturally happened that Spotify became the biggest one.
Yep.
It's not a convenience. People just go there. Like it's like a Google search. Will
Yes.
it make you any money? No.
No.
But like when people are trying to, like your parents' friends, where it's just like, oh, I hear you have a music band.
Yes, exactly.
Like how, like if your name's not on that thing, it's not that they're listening to your music. It's just like it becomes like yes, this is my it's Bill and Diane, it's their kid. Like it's it's like that. But if it's not there, it's like you don't exist.
Exactly.
And then they forget that and then you see him when you go home for Thanksgiving, and it's just like, so what are you doing up there? Are you
exactly? Yeah.
Like,
you just need and like sometimes that's all. I mean, I think when I think back to this record that that I'm putting out here, the idea of it is that I kind of wanted to write music that my uncle would listen to, that my grandpa would listen to.
That's a legit, thing. Because you're trying to. I think intention really matters.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I think like having an unintention from like the get-go helps more than like I just want to make music, where it's just like, well, who are you making this for? Because like experimental artists, like you would think they're like, oh, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall. It's like, no, just because something is really harsh and grating, noise artists actually put a lot of thought behind noise. Like there's like it's like metaphorical noise, and sometimes that's circumstantial, where it's just like an accident in the studio happened, and you're like, oh, that sounds fucked up. Well, let's fuck it up even more. But like it. I think a lot of times bands are just like, hey, you should listen to my music. Why? Because like it's like the Zaffrod Beeblebrox thing. It's like, because I'm just a swell guy. You should just listen to me because I'm me. How about that? Like it's just like I like that you're like, no, I want something that my uncle can feel comfortable listening to. Tap the toe, enjoy a beer, or just like it's like, this is a nice tune right here.
Things that. Having that intention is always also kind of fun too, because I think of it sort of like a gift almost. Not that I'm.
We are vibe merchants.
Vibe merchants, merchants like of vibe.
We're merchants of vibe, and it's like a because and I think you have experience with this too. It's like there's two types of venues, like. One, you're basically selling alcohol, and you're basically trying to get as many people there to sell alcohol. But there's a completely other subsect of gigs where it's just like they're not really there to see you. I mean, they're in the age of like brewery gigs, they kind of are. Like it's just like, oh, we should go stop and get a drink. Where should we go? Oh, let's go. Hey, look who's playing. We should go here. Check that out. Like they're there to see you, but they're also like not there to see you. Like they're there because
you're part of the package. Yeah.
Yes, they trust the vibes you put out. So like they're there to make memories, and you are there to kind of like facilitate the easy transition of that process. And I think a lot of musicians kind of have a hard time with, to quote the late great Tucker Jensen, I don't think people really like music that much at the end of the day.
I don't really think they do. I think they like to be a part of something, which is
and don't we all? And that is valid. And and I think everyone likes music, but it's like have you ever seen the performer's name escapes me, and that's such a shame because this was like a life-changing special. It's this magician who does an off-Broadway show called In and of Itself.
Yes, I did see that.
And there's this moment where he's kind of talking about like, I struggled for so long to get people to see what I see in this.
Yeah.
And I kind of let that go because people don't see what I see in that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They still enjoy it in their own way, but like I enjoy it for different reasons. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
it's still just as enjoyable for
Mhm.
everybody, even though I'm enjoying it for different reasons. And I think there's a level of that is kind of hard for some musicians to grasp, but also
Mhm.
the theater kid to rock and roll pipeline is very real. And I think at the end of the day, there is just like, it's just like, but please just look at me. I can do it. I can play the part. Pay attention to me. Please pay
Yes,
attention to
exactly.
me.
Yeah.
Like, and it's hard to let go.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I gotta fade out and make sure we get to Democracy Now on time.
Sure.
Maybe got to time it. So it's like exactly 12 seconds. I love Madison Cunningham. Thank you for putting her on the list.
She's great.
Like,
did you see that she did something with? They did Remy Wolf and her did a. I think
What?
they did like Kimmel or something, or maybe it was. They did a late night show and they sang together. Yeah, and I was like, this is amazing. I didn't have no idea they even knew each other.
No, me neither.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, Madison is like one of those artists that I'm like, I've been kind of like, when people ask that question where it's just like, oh, so you do you work where? Well, who should I be listening to? Like, she's like the number one artist. Is like, have you checked out Madison Cunningham? You should listen to Madison Cunningham.
Right, yeah.
It's just like one of the coolest guitarists I've seen in a long time. Like, just like
really great vibes.
Like, yeah, just like good technique, but also like you can tell it's Madison the second the first note is played.
Yeah, she's like very indicative style.
And I like guitarists like that. I because that's so hard to do. You know, like, say what you will about Jack White, he's an artist where it's like, you know, it's Jack White.
Yeah,
and it's like, you don't have to like it, but it's just like, to create that is like a special thing that should at least be like applauded. Like, you're doing like a hard, you know, like you're in the Olympics where it's just like, whew, that's hard to do.
It is hard
like
to do.
That should be appreciated. But yeah, Madison's great. And I feel like I only get a chance to see her if like I'm working the show.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But it's also one of those artists where it's just like, please go to the show. Like, this, you are going to like this show. Just try it. You'll like it.
Yeah. Is she back? She's back soon, isn't she?
Yeah, because she's trying to tour on the last record, which did she get nominated for a Grammy this year?
I don't know.
Not that any of that stuff matters, but like, it is a reason to tour, and I hope she comes back.
I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Nominated for 2 Grammys.
Really good on Madison. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if she keeps it up, she'll be nominated for Best New Artist in 5 years.
Sounds about right for that organization.
Right on par with yeah, it's just like this is why I can't get ahead, because I can't resist the zinger. But yeah. Now that Democracy Now is on, I actually do have to clear the studio to set it up for the next DJ. So
right on.
Gotta wrap it up. But Taylor, this was awesome.
This was
always
super
fun
fun
talking with you.
Yeah,
congrats on the new record. Sounds great.
Thank you.
I am going to try my darndest to make one of these Tuesday nights.
There's always another gig.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I brought up Midwest Music Fest is because I think we're playing on the same night.
Oh, nice. Well, hopefully I see you sooner than that, though.
Good. Well, I mean, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right. Well, congrats. Have fun. Stay warm out there.
Oh, yeah, you
I'm gonna
too.
press the little button.
All right.